Hello, you're watching night videos. I wasn't going to do a night video, but today was fucking amazing. I've been crying since about half seven, and what is it, three? Well, not, there's been intermittent periods of not crying. I won the Blake, I won the Blake Society Tithe Grant Award this evening. And can you hear me? I wouldn't have been able I wouldn't have done this had not Janet Bettisworth. Sorry, is it okay if I use your last name? I'm assuming it's okay, but she sent me the link to this thing the Blake Society was doing about write a letter in Blake's own voice, and I'm very emotional. But I imagine Blake was as well. And that's funny. Like when I wouldn't have done it, so Janet sent me this link, and submissions were due before Blake's birthday on the 28th of November. And I said at the time, there's nothing I resent more than an opportunity. Oh, by the way, if you like these videos, click like or subscribe. And please become a patron at patreon.com/Will Franken. But so Janet, she sent me this link, and I was like, oh God, because when I write, see, the comedy is, it's, I walk around and talk in funny voices until something, halfway interesting comes out, or satirical or whatever. But, when I sit down and actually write, the written word, it is extremely excruciating. And the perfectionism takes over, like, more than anything else, any other pursuit I'm involved in with music or comedy. But with writing, it's like, God, it's just a brutal, isolating thing. And I actually wrote that down in a to-do list. Oh, by the way, the 18th of December. Jesus, I'm all over the map. We got to keep it pure, man. Let's keep it up here. Sorry about that. I should have prepared for the cameras. But it was just so anyway. So Janet had sent this thing to me, and I wrote down on a to-do list, write that letter, and sure enough, it took a couple days to write it because the fucking perfectionism was just driving me insane. I never learned how to blow my nose. It always goes, I have to go backwards and spit it out. So, so I'm single. But, and I mentioned yesterday I was shortlisted for this award. And I went down there, and I'm going to read this. I'm going to read the letter that came with it, because it was Tracy Chevalier was the judge, the novelist Tracy Chevalier. I'm going to read this letter. I got to tell you, I was so fucking nervous. It says, a letter from Tracy Chevalier, judge of the 2017 Tithe Grant Award. Reading the 7 shortlisted entries for this year's Tithe Grant Award was a great pleasure and also an eye-opener, reminding me once again that Blake was a man out of time who would have had much to say to any era, from terrorism to social media, segues to Trump, consumerism to over-medication, slavery to mechanization. The 7 letter writers skillfully dissected today's woes, both general and particular, imitating Blake's unique voice. However, one entry in particular read as if Blake himself were speaking. It was that wonderful marriage of an exuberant, almost jazz-like rhythm and tone, with righteous indignation, that yet maintains a child's eye view of the world. For channeling the visionary Blake and giving us a letter the man himself would have approved of. The 2017 Tithe Grant Award goes to Will Franken. Am I insane? I was with a friend of mine from Cannington. Yeah, this is kind of an experiment. I did that. There's that video where I was angry at a heckler in the audience, and I said, and there was only 7 people in that night. Was it 2 years ago at the Fringe? Oh God, this is not attractive. I can't get. Yeah. 2 years ago at the Fringe, there was this heckler in the audience. And it was such a small crowd. I just stopped what I was doing, and I said, does anybody want to film me being angry at this man? And so, unfortunately that video is out there. You motherfucker, you fucking numpty, you fucking asshole. If you go to a comedy club, because this ain't it, motherfucker. This is, just to capture that anger, and I always regretted that. And then I thought tonight, because I've been unable to stop, really, when I think about this, I can't, so when I didn't, it's absolutely fucking surreal. Because, when we finished the film, Red, White, and Blake, I was, the expectations got the better of me when I sent it out, and people couldn't finish it, we didn't, and like Blake, Scott and I didn't know how to fucking market anything, Blake was not a businessman, Blake was not a businessman, and so, what did I say yesterday? It was a case of art imitating art. So we made this film, and but the Blake Society people who I met tonight expressed interest in showing the film, and all of a sudden, the whole thing was surreal. I went with this guy from Canning Town because he wanted to go, because I went to this thing. I was out by the docks earlier, and it was 100% day. And he said, can you have guests? And I called the guy from the Blake Society, and he says, okay to bring guests. And this guy showed up, and he knew nothing about Blake, and it was just an adventure. He just wanted to tag along and go for the event. Nothing's actually running down my face. I'm just trying to keep what I think is going to come out back up. So it's like on the precipice. So I'm trying to, crying is an ugly thing, isn't it? We see so much of it nowadays. Anyway, am I going to try to do a whole hour with this? I just wanted to read that letter. And the letter is really, yeah. But, when let's try to, do we want to go chronological here? This is all emotional right now. This is extremely emotional. Because 7 months we made that film, and then, it was kind of a wow, wow, wow. And I thought, that's it. Yeah, you make a film on William Blake. you try to tell the story of William Blake using the fourfold division of man, to tell it in terms of the four Zoas, and you don't dumb anything down, and you just throw that out there, and the girls don't go, woohoo, I'll take my top off for you, Will, here comes the money, da da da, and oh god, maybe I can't start over now. I just got to get it back up, but it, and those expectations are so out of whack. But I thought I was going to do myself in. And then I started to resent Blake. I thought, because see, that's the thing. When I went up there tonight, I didn't know if I was supposed to say anything after the announcement was made, and I went up there, and all I could say was this one story with Scott, because Scott was there as well, and God bless Scott. He's been through this whole fucking journey, and like Doug, Doug came tonight. Doug didn't know anything about William Blake, and I think when Scott started, he didn't know much about William Blake. And at one point, I remember being on the phone to Scott. I think Scott had really kind of, Scott reached a breaking point with my perfectionism, and that was an amazing. I had a turnaround, even though I felt like I was destroying myself mentally with the perfectionism behind that film. There was a point at which I realized that, I'm going to have to be a better person if I'm going to work with people. And when I started out with Scott, I was a real bully. I was nasty. I was ungrateful. And I like to think it was about halfway through. We got to the halfway point, and I was like, you know what? He's really talented visually. And his visual sensibility is matching. It's a beautiful fusion with how I interpreted Blake's fourfold vision, and the humor as well, and the audio. So I felt like it was my ears and his eyes making that film. And so the story I told was that one day Scott and I had this. It was like a falling out. I think Scott had protested, and he was like, what, I'm not. We were supposed to do a shoot or an editing session or something, and Scott was like, I can't fucking do this. He needed a day off. And of course I wanted to just keep working. He just needed to fucking have a break from Will Franken. And I called him up, and I remember I said, that I actually believe this stuff. And he says, oh yeah, I know you do. and whether or not Scott believed it or not. I'm talking about what Blake believed. I actually believe what Blake believed. I believe that Blake did talk to angels. I believe that Blake is in heaven, some afterlife. I believe he's there, and there were moments, you could call them drug induced or whatever, where I would tell Scott, Blake's happy with this. Blake's happy with it, and most people, it was a very Blakean experience in the sense that, most of the people before who I would tell an idea to, and they would say like, yeah, man, right on, Will. That sounds great. When I told them about the Blake documentary, it just seemed like nobody was interested and people were falling by the wayside, and it was kind of a lonely experience. But that's the story I told tonight, was that I actually believe that Blake believed this stuff. And because I believe that, I believe as well. I believe in God, and nowadays that's, in many quarters cast as madness unless you're of the politically correct approved religion, the Urizenic religion, for those Blakes. And by the way, if there's any Blake Society members watching this right now, I just want to convey my gratitude for this. And there's nothing fun about the crying, is there? I shouldn't have done this. Should I do it again and be rational? Hello, what's up? Anyway, that's what happened. And the day, it was a 100% day. I went over to an old man's house to try to teach him how to play his keyboard. This 86-year-old man, I'd heard that he'd got himself a keyboard, and he didn't know what the hell to do with it. He just said it in passing, and I said, well, I can come over and show you how to play the blues. It's great. All you need is 3 chords. If you get 3 chords, and he loved old rock and roll. And I went over to this guy's house, and he was so. See, the reason there's two. I like old people because I like history. I love history, as Blake loved history. I believe that real progress comes from looking backwards. We look back to, in Blake's case, the Gothics, the ancients. That's the source of all truth, comes from the past. That's when you go back to the beginning, the origin of it all. I hope people see this film. We're going to show this film. We are going to show this. We're going to show this film. The past is all we have, right? And that's why I love old people. I've always loved old people. The elderly, whatever the politically correct term is nowadays. But I also love music. And I love the idea that at 86 years old, this man had got himself a keyboard. And I said, well, if you're not doing anything on Wednesday, I'll come over and I'll teach you how to play. I'll teach you how to play piano, but I'll teach you some chords, and we'll get you rocking and rolling, because he fucking loved. He said, do you know any Fats Domino? And that was the one. I go, brilliant. I'll teach you Ain't That a Shame, and the look of joy on his face. You teach him the G chord. You make doom doom me cry, doom doom, when you said doom doom goodbye. And I was like, and now up to C. Ain't that a C shame? And it was funny, I think he was just so excited to have somebody over there. And so I would teach him. I got to where I taught him 2 chords. So there was G and there was C. Ain't that a shame? And I was like, and then we got one more. Now it's the D. This is your surprise chord. You're the one to blame. And before I would get to the chord, he'd go, do you like jokes? And he would go get a cassette tape of like 100. He was an old Irishman. He said it was a cassette tape of 100 funny Irish jokes. He put this in, and it was like wherever. It was just an adventure, man. And I don't know if you remember. Like I went to Paris a couple weeks ago, and had free pizza with a couple strangers out there. And one was an American, and the other was a Frenchman. And the Frenchman was depressed. The Frenchman was like, "Oh, but that's why. And the American guy, and I don't speak French, but the American guy at one point said to his distraught French friend, he goes, "Sufficient, or suffisant." And I said, "Did you just tell him that this was sufficient?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "That's absolutely right. This is sufficient. Having free pizza in Paris at this moment in time is sufficient. And that's why my definition of heaven has always been this life forever, with all of its beautiful ups and downs, and the beauty of being in the human condition, being both body and soul." Right? And so I think my letter's going to be I think, put on the Blake Society website. And thank you again to the Blake Society and all the hard work they've done to get the grave marker, the proper grave marker for Blake's actual burial, and to secure the Blake cottage in Felpham. All the work that they've done to keep Blake's spirit alive, and their connection with the Blake archive, which was invaluable in making our film. Can you believe that? I thought I'd burned myself out on Blake, and here it is again. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I'm not gonna reshoot this one. It'd be silly to at this point. Then I would have to fake the tears. I'd have to keep doing this until I didn't cry anymore. This is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. It's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But that's how I started the day. I went over to this guy's house, and it's funny. He said, you want coffee or tea? I said, black coffee. And then he brought out scones. I hadn't had scones in ages. So he brought out a plate of about 6 scones, big fat scones, and a cup of black coffee. Now, I thought we were sharing the scones. And I was like, so I ate a scone. I go, all right, let's get you started on that keyboard there. Okay, so ain't that a shame? Is the G chord? He goes, no, finish your thing. That's all for you. So he wanted me to eat all 6 scones. So that, finish the scones first. So I ate all 6 scones, and then and then said, ain't that a boom boom? There we go. And then just when we get to the final chord, he wanted to, he would just go off to something. I was like, do you know how to use a computer? I go, well, yeah, I can take a look at it. And he popped open the computer at one point, and he said, now how do you type something on this? And I pulled up Word. I said, well, you get Word up there, and then here you would just type. And he goes, and you can do that as well. You can do that and that, the piano and this thing. I said, well, yeah, because typing is the same thing as but the piano's easier. I kept trying to get him back to the piano, but it was just such a free-form, fun day, isn't it? It was, and last night I saw Queen, and I was nervous because I hadn't been to a concert in ages. But I saw them. Look, Adam Lambert was very respectful of his position. I think that was the first thing. He was like, he acknowledged, look, I'm not Freddie Mercury, but he knew exactly how to play it. But more importantly, Brian May and Roger Taylor were having fun. I mean, they were Roger Taylor was singing, Brian May was soloing just as he was when he was in his 20s. He was running up and down the stage, and when they were speaking off the cuff, it was such love and fun, and it really, it felt like a gift to all the hits, because they played all the hits, and it felt like a gift from the performers to the fans and back again, just a constant gift giving, gift receiving, over and over and over. It was amazing. And Adam Lambert, I always like that ballad, Who Wants to Live Forever, from the movie Highlander. Who wants to live? And he was really fucking good, And, I left there last time. It's been a great week so far. Really, the nasty side of my head just thinks, the shoe's going to drop, I mean, Monday's show was great. Don't forget the 18th of December, the second installment. And then we're off for Christmas, and we start again in the new year. But, do come down to the Leicester Square Theater the 18th of December. This Monday, actually, be brand new material. I mean, that's what I promised people. No 2 shows are going to be exactly alike. And I went, anyway, so that was spending time with this old man this morning. Spending time with that, and the joy and the belief, and hearing his stories. God, I love the elderly, but hearing his stories, and sharp as a fucking tack, and the way he talks too, he used to be a boxer, so he's like, when he talks, he does a little bit of that shuffle. But so, we're going to go over there next Tuesday, and my friend who plays guitar is going to come over there and show him how to play his guitar. So this guy's got 2 instruments, and he doesn't know how to play any of them. So my friend's going to come over and teach him guitar. I'm going to continue on with the piano lessons. And we're going to get a nice little band started in his flat. The human form divine. That's what Blake talked, the human form divine. And I met this Sikh the other day, and he said something about they greet each other. I can't remember the it's something Maharaj, when the Sikhs greet each other. Something Maharaj, which means, blessings to you, King of Kings. That one human addresses another human as King of Kings. And so afterwards, I went up to him. This was yesterday, and I went up to him. I said, William Blake? And he started quoting the Doors of Perception at me, and I said, yeah, my Sikh brother. We are the King of Kings. We are. This is not nihilism. We are gods unto ourselves, man. We are the God we seek. That doesn't mean ego. Well, here's something else that I heard from a different Irishman recently. He said that he's talking about himself, so imagine I'm him. So he said, I am God's greatest gift to me. I am God's greatest gift to me. That's the gift. I am the gift that God gave me. However you choose to define God. I know there's probably atheists watching this, but however you choose to define God, spirit of the universe, whatever makes you feel safe, from that nasty, heavy word called God, whatever makes you feel, however you want to define that thing, that you are the greatest. In other words, the best version of you. What they do now is they basically take that and they turn, it's okay to do that if you're speaking corporate talk. Be the best that you can be. Buy Nike, So, stripping it of that material perversion and the corporate perversion, and just keeping it pure to its pure spiritual essence. Yes, we are God's gift to ourselves. However we came into being, we didn't ask to be born, we didn't ask to die, we didn't ask to enter into this universe, but it is a gift. And when you see that I just saw so much interconnectivity tonight, like true interconnectivity, not the fractious stuff that we see with the social media web shit, but I'm talking about true interconnectivity, because had Janet Bettesworth not reached out to me with this, I wouldn't have entered. Dougie, my friend Dougie, wouldn't have come to this tonight. Now because he's a painter, he's getting turned on to, hopefully he'll get turned on to William Blake. If I hadn't been trying to pick up Scott's girlfriend, right? This was back in 2012. Scott had this cute little girl, and he was down in Shropshire, and I was at the Fringe, and it was my first Fringe, and I was, she was one of these, because my confidence was through the roof, man. I felt like I was a superstar, man. I was like, King Fringe in 2012. And I was flirting left and right. I was doing all right, but I was flirting, just right. And I was flirting with her constantly because I like those little pixie looking girls with brunette hair. I like the little pixies sometimes. I like a lot of different types of women, but I like the pixie girls sometimes. By the way, Georgia Brown? She was a soul singer from the late 60s out here. She's dead now, but I saw this documentary. It was like a 1968 documentary. Georgia Brown, look her up on YouTube. Just sexy. There was something, and she's Jewish too. She's just something. Oh God, she was just. I'm Georgia Brown, and because she speaks like a sultry middle class girl in those documentaries, but she's like a girl from she's an original Cockney, and there's one scene where she's in front of a synagogue. And she goes, this was the synagogue I used to go to. I haven't been here for 17 years. That's back, back when it was cool, like, 68, But there was something, she's like dressed like Twiggy, like that Twiggy look. Oh, real sexy. Wasn't going to go off on that. That was for a different video. Georgia Brown. Look her up, Georgia Brown. Named after two of her favorite songs, Georgia on My Mind, Georgia Brown. Anyway. I got to get back on track. So, yeah, if I hadn't been trying to hit on Scott's, and that goes back even farther. If I hadn't gotten sober in 2010, because that was another situation where I was in 2010, I was, I had to have a drink to get out of bed, right? And if I hadn't made the decision to get the fuck sober up, clean up, I wouldn't have gotten to a point 3 years later where the opportunity to go out to the Fringe, it's insane, the interconnectivity, so much of my career has been the last scene of It's a Wonderful Life. I've said this before. So much of my career, if you could even call it a career, has been, you're at this point of desperation. You don't know what it's all been about. You know, basically down deep, you are a decent person, but you let these things get a hold of you. Sometimes you let jealousy, you let externals matter more than the internals. This, I'm talking to me here, right? So and so's got a bigger poster and he's been on TV, therefore, you know, and all I know is nastiness sometimes. You know, but down deep, I'm a good person, as we all are. And down deep at our core, I think there's an expression deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. Within ourselves is the fundamental. See, that's what I'm saying. We're not talking about an ethereal, supernatural creature. You know, outside of us, within each and every one of us, is the fundamental idea of God. He's not out there. There isn't, you know, it's not codified like religion. Like Blake would have none of that, right? It's the view of the human itself, the human form divine. We have it within us. These beautiful vessels that we travel in, and you know, some are like really beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I like a bit of some vessels more than others. But anyways, if I hadn't been hitting on Scott's girlfriend, Scott never would have come up to me and said, "Hey, you the guy that's hitting on my girlfriend?" And you know, years later, him saying we should make, you know, me realizing I didn't have many gigs going on, and him saying we should make a movie, and me saying let's do a documentary on William Blake. And of course, that's all from getting into Blake when I was a teenager. Just, you know, and then I don't know. It's very, very surreal. I probably shouldn't have done one in this condition because I really was absolutely confused. See, I know negativity. You know, I get that. I'm used to like, you know, I'll tell you something else, but fucking the television industry's full of shit, man. You know, systems and that. I know how to complain. I don't really know what to do with this feeling. I really don't know what to do with this other than there's something about, I have to turn myself inside out. You know what I mean? I mean, I said this today. I have to turn myself inside out because sometimes so much of my life is looking inwards, right? And constricted, but I have to start going out. I have to see other people. I have to, a certain amount of emptying of the ego. Now, I'm not talking about the Buddhist and, you know, ego dissolution, you know, the end game of LSD, right? You know, for those who, you look, when I dropped acid because I wanted to see the walls melt. It wasn't a big learning experience, you know. And you know, there's too many acid casualty stories like Sid Barrett and even John Lennon, which I mentioned before, that John Lennon took so much acid where, you know, he let Paul, oh, that's cool. He let Paul take over, you know, which wasn't bad because Paul gave us Sgt. Pepper, you know, and John, but Paul largely gave the world Sgt. Pepper's. Paul kept steering the ship. Lennon had dropped so much acid where his ego was gone, and there's that really touching scene where I believe it was Neil Aspinall took John off to the side and played him Strawberry Fields Forever and songs that Lennon had wrote and said, "Listen, that's you. That is you." Because Lennon had to rebuild his ego again. Yeah. So the complete death of the ego is not what I'm talking about here. It's looking at yourself in the sense of how can I contribute to a situation, right? And I've had so many moments like that, like when Janet wanted me to come with her to the Garrett Club, you know, because she was receiving an award. They weren't announcing it; she'd already received it, so I was there as her guest. She says, "If you want to come down to the Garrett Club," and I love David Garrett, you know, I love the stories of David Garrett. I never knew the man, nor William Blake. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think. Because, see, I believe, that's the thing, I honestly did. I would say, like, he's happy. Blake just, you know, Blake is giving us the thumbs up here. So when I went there with Jan, I was nervous. Because it was, you know, you had to wear the appropriate, I mean, this was cool. I put on this tonight because it was fun, but, you know, I had jeans on. But that, you know, you had to wear slacks, dress trousers, dress shoes. There was, it was very fancy. And when I went in there, I was really nervous. And I thought there was going to be food. You know, I thought it was going to be a big turkey because it was a Christmas party for this magazine. I thought it was going to be a lot of turkey and some stuffing. And, you know, and there wasn't. There was like 2 bowls of crisps. Oh, please. Please, no autographs. Hey, are you the guy that won the Blake thing? Woohoo! Let me get my energies into you, baby. What was I talking about? What was I talking about? Tell me. Okay. So I was gonna get. No, if I just no, I'll get back there. I'll get back there. I was talking about something. Yeah. Next time, turn the phone off. I felt bad. I went up there tonight with the phone. Everybody had was reading their letters from a hard copy, and I went up there and I said, for a devout Luddite, I feel bad that I've only got my phone here, but then they had a hard copy, which was great. And one of the nice ladies afterwards said, she said, what they want Scott to film me performing it, reading from it, which I think we're going to do tomorrow. But she said, if you could just slow it down in places. And I said, yeah. I said, that's the only reason I did that. I was so fucking nervous. I was honest to God fucking nervous. Oh, Janet, the party with Janet, right? So I went in to this Garrett Club thing and I was really nervous. But then this is the divine, right? This is the human form divine. See, instead of constricting, we constrict ourselves, we limit ourselves. We're not the infinite anymore. We're finite. When we go in there and it's like, okay, people are watching me eat crisp. And when I get at this, how do you even talk to people? Right? But if you flip it, if you turn it inside out, and I've noticed this, and it's been a pattern for the last couple of weeks. If you turn it inside out and you go, I'm here for Janet. I'm not here for me. I'm a guest of Janet. Janet's winning the award. Talk, right? And then you project outwards. That's the infinite. The infinite lies outwards. And we use this beautiful spaceship of the human body to maneuver through this life and project outwards. But collapsing in, God, who doesn't do that? What mad artist doesn't do that? You get to a point where you just collapse inward and inward and inward, and that's the loop that's killing you. And you don't know that it's killing you. You're just living this constant loop of resentment and jealousy and fear, and right? When you can have those days where you project outward and you think of your friends and you think of other people, and once that happened, I thought, that's it. I don't know if I'm there all the time. I'm sure nobody can be perfect, but there has been like yesterday's concert. Going to that concert, I was so nervous, but then when I realized, wow, I have great friends. I have great friends that would take me to see Queen. And and there I am, here I am in London, and I'm watching Brian May run up and down the thing. Life is an adventure. Sufficient. This is sufficient. If you want for nothing, if you need for nothing, right? What does it say in the Bible, right? Consider the sparrows, consider the birds, how little they have. Basically, your Father in heaven feeds, and he doesn't. Do he clothe them? He doesn't clothe birds. He puts feathers on them, but he feeds the sparrows. So how much more will he do for you? Yeah. So your needs are always provided for. Your needs are always provided for. It's the wants that kill you. And if you want for nothing, everything else is icing, isn't it? And I think I was at the stage today. I think after all that had gone on today, to start the day like that was a great way to start the day. It was great to see a joy in another's eyes. Because I had this thing when I went over there, because I volunteered. This is the 86-year-old guy I'm talking about. I volunteered because I love music and I love old people. And I really love the idea of an old person wanting to learn music. And especially with my favorite instrument, the keyboard, the piano. And I said, would you be interested? This is a couple of days ago. I said, would you be up for that if I came over Wednesday and I could show you a few chords? I said, do you like the blues? He goes, oh, I love the blues. And I said, yeah, well, man, the blues, all you need is 3 chords. We can get you playing the blues over and over. And then he was so excited about Elvis Presley and Little Richard. I said, fuck, man. And then Fats Domino, that was his big thing. I said, we'll get you on Fats Domino. We'll start everything off with, ain't that a shame? All right? And it was a perfect way to start the day. It was a perfect way to start the day. So those two things came together. And I think I was in a position where, you could really want for nothing else. Because you've had that experience. You had that experience. And then I got pie and the best pie and mash in the world today. Out in Poplar. Fucking EastEnders pie and mash. Highly recommended. Excellent tasting pies. And then that's when Dougie said, can you have guests at this thing? And I said, I don't know, I'll call the guy. And I called the guy. And it's funny because he knew that I was Will Franken for some reason. I thought, I don't know if maybe he looked me up online or something. I don't know. But there is a little bit of a fear of success too, because that I didn't know what to do. Like I went to this thing, and it was really illuminating. They had a life mask of Blake, right? So when you entered the room, like there was Blake's head, right? I mean, with that grimace. If you haven't seen it, look it up. I actually thought it was a death mask. I didn't realize it was a life mask. That Blake had done this when he was still alive. He had this plaster mold made of his face. And it was sitting there, and the archives, it was at the City of Westminster Archives, and they brought out some stuff I hadn't seen. Amazing stuff. And there was a letter to one of his patrons, Thomas Butts. And it was funny because as Tim Heath, the chair of the Blake Society, pointed out, this Thomas Butts was the equivalent of a civil servant. He was like, completely unconnected to to art and visionary prophecy. And yet he was a patron of Blake's, and it made sense to me, though. Like, the more I thought about it, because the people that have been my patrons over the years, you wouldn't believe, it's an insane cross-section of people, from the very young to the very old, from the 9-to-5 businessman to the, pink carrot artist, so I got that, right? And there was a letter that he'd written where he was slagging off Joshua Reynolds. Now, Joshua Reynolds, again, was one of the quotes I put in my letter. I love that in the annotations to a book on Joshua Reynolds was I don't know what the equivalent. Joshua Reynolds was to the painting world of his day what the equivalent of Russell Brand, maybe, possibly, would be to stand-up comedy of today. I don't know. Now, Blake was a bridge burner. I totally get that as well. He would get this little thing called prophecy burning in him, and he would have to burn a few bridges because he'd fucking had it, right? And so I knew the expression, this man was hired to depress art, right? He fucking hated Reynolds' style. And so I'm looking at this letter, which I've never read before, to Thomas Butts, where he's breaking down in specifics why he had such contempt for the picturesque, right? Just the mere idea of the generalization. It's just the general abstract. For Blake, the beauty was in the particulars, right? It's the particular, what we perceive, and how boring it would be to be. There's a paradoxical beauty to living in a finite shell, because living within the finite shell, we can much more appreciate infinity than if we were just of infinity to begin with, without having that ratiocination. I can never get that word right. Ratiocination of the five senses. So anyway, I'm all over the map. I knew I was extremely emotional, but maybe I had to do this. I had to cry in front of my people. But it was funny. We went out. So that presentation was wonderful. We were all able to come up there and look at these original Blake letters. There was a 1783 publication of Blake's first publication before he did it all himself, and poems that I hadn't seen before, marginalia drawings that I hadn't seen before, the Preston collection, it's called. Great stuff. And then the readings took place, and I think there were 7 readings from the short list. And I was sitting next to Doug, right? This guy from the East End here, who I've only just gotten to know. The one who said, "Yeah, I can tag along with you," and like he comes, and he's sitting there the whole time. And then when they made the announcement, I told him he's crying. because he knew how fucking nervous I was nervous. Here's the deal, I was fucking nervous. You know why? Because I used to be in the academic world briefly, and then I've done comedy for like 20 years with, highs and lows and highs and lows. And so I'm fairly confident in my, in what I know of Blake and my interpretation of Blake. But I hadn't been around the Blake Society members before. And I was really scared. And all of a sudden I felt like, as soon as I entered the room, I felt like I'm stupid. Like I'm, and I felt like I had to, I was getting into that fear, that self-obsessed fear, where I had to prove that I did know something about Blake. I'm not here by a fluke. I'm so Doug knew what I was going through before. I was nervous. I was like, let's smoke one more cigarette and then go in. I was nervous, really, really nervous. And so when it all happened, I was so shell-shocked by, when it was all over, because there were some really good entries. I didn't get a chance to congratulate her, but there was a woman, and I hope I get to meet her again. Her letter also mentioned the over-medication, right? And I was in here, I was in the back here, and they're going here. I thought she was really, really good, because that is a bugbear for me. That the dope. Let's dope your kids up. Let's put your kids on the spectrum and give them some dope. Dope them up and regard every emotion as suspect. So I really wanted to congratulate her friend. But there were lots of good entries, and I did want to point that out. That I was really honored to. I'm just really, really moved. But I hope I'm coming across clear. Maybe I'll have a listen back to this one and see if I want to post it or not. But I looked over and Dougie's crying. Dougie was crying. I didn't know what to. I didn't know what to do, and I was shaking hands, and they took pictures, and when it was all over, people, they would say, "When's your next show?" I totally forgot I had flyers with me for my show on the 18th, and then luckily I did give out flyers, but I just forgot. I didn't know. I just didn't fucking know. And they were talking about the film, but I didn't know. I was in a state of utter confusion. That happened. What I really wanted to do was I needed to go away so I could cry, because I still have, it's like what happened when I mentioned this before with Robin Williams, when Robin Williams came up to me, and I remember he broke off an interview. He saw me and he broke off an interview to come over, and he told the guys, "I'll be right back." And he went over to me and he goes, "Oh, bro, I've been watching your stuff on YouTube." And I had to just choke about, "Oh, right on. Yeah, cool, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Yeah. And I couldn't wait for him to go back to the interview so I could leave the theater, go around the corner and cry. I had to go around it was just too bad. I didn't know what was I going to do? Cry in front of him? And I was worried. But I thought, I think if anybody would have appreciated it, I think people who know, their passion is William Blake. I think, I probably could have gotten away with crying. And I did mention when I, went back up there, I said, I think I might cry. It was, so my heartfelt gratitude to everybody and to everybody who's made this a really great week so far, to all of you who came out Monday night to help kick off this residency at the Leicester Square Theater in Two-Armed Bandit. But you know what? It is a fear. Here's the fear of success. Like, if you stay under the radar, you can say whatever the fuck you want, right? That's been my big fear for I know it. You can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want because nobody's going to see it anyway. Like, if it's 40, 50 people watching, what the fuck does it matter? Right? But then all of a sudden, it's like they want to show the film, and I'm going, God, what if they don't like the film? There is a little bit of that. Or what if they find things out about me that they don't like? That's my fear of intimacy, like a motherfucker right there. That's my fear of intimacy. I mean, I never would have believed fear of intimacy, but there was a little bit of that. That you develop these things, and you're so. I mean, I'm such an Anglophile, and I worry that I'm not emotionally British. That I don't. No, the Browning version. Remember I told you about that film, the Browning version, with Michael Redgrave. You've got to see this. It's about this. God, what do they call him? The kids have a nickname for him. Anyway, it's 1950, I think, the Browning version. Only watch that version. Don't watch any remakes. Crocker Harris. I believe it's Crocker Harris is the teacher. And none of the kids like him. And he teaches classics, and he's dry and boring, and none of the kids like him. And there's a younger, more popular teacher that's taking over. He's retiring. His wife is cheating on him. This is but he's such a stiff upper lip, you know. He only cares about Aeschylus and whether the kids turn their work in on time, and and as far as you see, there's no emotion. And then this little kid, and I might cry retelling this scene. This little kid gets him a goodbye gift, which is the Browning version of I believe it's of Agamemnon. It's the Browning translation of Agamemnon. And he comes over to Arthur Crocker Harris's house and says, the Croc, the kids call him. He goes, "Oh, I've got you this, sir. It's the Browning version of Agamemnon." And he looks at it and he goes, "Did you buy this with your own money?" "Yes, sir. I thought you might like it, sir." "Thank you very much. Would you get me a glass of water from the kitchen, please?" "Yes, sir." As soon as the kid leaves to get him a glass of water, he looks at this work and he bursts out in tears, as if the floodgates had opened. And as soon as the kid comes back with the water, he goes, "Thank you very much for this gift. Now let's get back to your lessons." It was like the privacy of emotion, the privacy. And you know what? Here's my problem with it, because I want to make it big now. Let's make it big. I believe we live in a world of such false emotion, right? People who are banging the drums against slavery that ended a long time ago and don't really do much about slavery that's still going on. People that see horror monsters everywhere in the world of politics, when the real freedom comes from just abandoning any hope or belief in the political system whatsoever. Although I, like Blake, actually, I got swept up in the 2016 revolution, and I was on the wrong side of the establishment, as well. Like him, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, but then you see what happens, and I don't regret that, but I see, like, we're never going to be free to these mind forge manacles, right? The ones that tell us that every male is toxic and every white man is a slave owner, this is it. But what makes this more insidious? Why for me is it not? Do I not go the Trump bashing and the this bashing? Because a lot of these are emanating from the arts and from the academics. The very people who should know better and who should be promoting mental and spiritual freedom, if you will, who should be demanding the best, the most original, the most unique. Who should be going after merit. Those are the ones that are, by and large, so these are cranked out by the very people who should know better. That's what I said in my letter, was that as the religious killed Christ, so too the artists are killing art. So what do we do when the artists have killed off art? Got a fierce. Look at this. I'm on to Fanta now. Oh, nothing against Iron Brew. Still my favorite drink of all time. It's just Tesco's in Forest Gate has rather imprudently decided to raise the price of 2 liters of Iron Brew to £1.70, whereas Fanta has stayed a quid. So that's it. I got to see, there's so many, it's all scattershot. Queen was great. The show was great on Monday. I got to make amends with somebody as well. The show was great on Monday. Got to see Queen, and I was nervous about Queen. I was like, "What are you doing at a concert?" And I'm worried about. I don't really have rhythm. I play piano, but like dancing, right? I'm very self-conscious. So like when they were starting, I can't even trust myself to clap in time to that. We will rock you. I was watching all their hands going dun dun. Because this old 86-year-old guy I was hanging out with today, like, he used to dance. He was like, I don't know if he was a championship. He boxed, and then when he was injured, he started dancing. He used to do ballroom. He was like, award-winning dancer. He said, have you ever seen Riverdance? He says, one day when you come over here, we'll watch the Riverdance. I go, fuck it. Why not? I mean, the girls, I want to see those girls because I think the outfits are sexy, you know. But yeah, you know what? Fucking beautiful. I said, yeah, one day we'll come over and watch the whole 2.5 hours of Riverdance. Fuck it. Why not? Because sufficient. This is sufficient. Life is sufficient. This is the adventure. It's what I told the Frenchman out there in Paris. I said, this is an adventure. We're having an adventure. You realize this. And thank fuck for Jim Carrey, man, because, you know, Jim Carrey, that fucking interview with him on the carpet at Fashion Week, where he looked in that reporter's eyes and says, there's no such thing as icons. You know, I don't care anymore. We're just tetrahedrons whirling through the galaxies and nothing matters. We don't matter, he says to the camera. That saved my fucking life. Some penny went off, some penny dropped in my, pennies don't go off, some penny went off. I just did it again. A penny dropped. What do pennies do? They drop, they don't go up. A penny dropped. So what the fuck are you doing? Why are you destroying yourself over this shit? You know, we all fall prey to that. You know, and I think that's one thing that's not often. You know, I think a lot of people kind of fall into a black and white vision of Blake. You know, where Blake was just happy to do his prophecy. He was just chugging along. You know, and if he did get angry, he was angry because of. Yeah, but I think Blake was human as well. Wait, don't think he was human as well. And yeah, he wanted that material success. He wanted that recognition, you know, and he just didn't have it within him to just bide his time. Don't speak ill of Joshua Reynolds. No, don't speak ill. I know what you mean, Blake. I get it. I understand. I know what you mean, but just keep it to ourselves because you don't want to ruin some friendships there. Look, he didn't give a fuck. He felt it, and it's actually very fundamentally, like if you're talking about religious terms, very Protestant, you know, which is just, you feel the call, you fucking go for it, you know, and who knows how much that cost him, but he did have, I'm convinced he had those desires. He wanted that. Of course, you see it in the letters. He wanted the recognition. But when he was in the right frame of mind, he would realize, you know, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what recognition you have. Either this stuff is real, either the world of the soul and the spirit is real, or it's not. So, you know, Pascalian, might as well wager that it is. I hope I've made sense tonight. Have I don't know. I thought I had to do one. I will listen to this back just to make sure I'm not mad. And I have to write, tomorrow I have to write the show for Monday, you know. And, yeah, I'm going to write the show. So come down the 18th, this Monday, 8:30 p.m., Leicester Square Theater, Two Armed Bandit. Not the main stage, it's the smaller room. But you know what? I'm fucking grateful for that. And I'm grateful for friends like John and Vanessa. Oh, and John, I just want him to, they usually don't get to the end of the videos. I just want you to know that this is going to, you know, I can pay you back for those cigarettes you brought me from Prague. Now, thanks to this, and my rent. This is almost just what I need to pay my rent. So it really is. This is why I believe in God, man. You know, this is the world of the artist. This is, you know, you just get right to the end. That's what I'm going to watch. I need, you know, Christmas is up. I need to watch It's a Wonderful Life again. You got to do it every year. You know, I totally get that. You know, he's not bad. You know what somebody told me in Norway one time? Because I used to perform a lot in Norway, and I knew this gang of comedians that I know very well in Norway, and I used to go over there a lot. And I remember, I think it was like the 4th or 5th time I'd gigged for them. One of the Norwegians said to me, you know, Will, you're so funny, but you know, also, how do you talk like a Norwegian? Ikke. He said, also too, you are, you know, you're also a very good, nice guy. I was like, wow, you know, that at the time, that actually meant more to me. Didn't hear that, because, you know, like a lot of times I walk around like I think I'm an utter fucking bastard. And that's why tonight I was like, I hope you guys know that I'm just socially awkward. I'm actually overjoyed, and I hope I'm expressing this okay, but I am extremely fucking grateful, and I think there's there's this weird guilt too that kind of comes in. It's like, I'm one of those people that, yeah, man, give me I want success. And then the moment I get it, it's like I feel guilty for it. It's like, I'm sorry. It's this way, so it's all about getting that pendulum right. Getting that pendulum just to fucking even out a little bit, But, so I will, John, I got money for the cigarettes now. And then the rent, I mean, it's a wonderful life. That's what happens. He gets, something goes wrong and he's like, that's it. And you believe that one bad day, and George Bailey had more than one bad day. We all know that. But, in the movie context, he had one bad day. I mean, he had a few, he had like an ongoing desire to get away from Bedford Falls. He had his dreams and they were constantly being, but he kept showing up and kept doing the right thing. But then he got to that one bad day where it's, what the fuck has this all been about? I could have left this fucking town, and why do we need these kids anyway? The house is drafty. And he's just about to do it because that one bad day becomes every day you've ever had. You cannot see, you cannot remember, you cannot recall, the mind cannot recall any good day, right? But this will be a memory that should last forever. I was thinking too, because I was thinking I couldn't remember the last time I'd ever won anything. And I went all the way back to my high school, senior year in high school. I won the grand prize in drawing at the art fair in the sketch drawing. And I remember showing up there. I was stoned off my nut because we used to smoke pot in my car in the mornings. Let's go. And then we went to the art fair. And I was like, "This is a big fucking ribbon on my drawing, man." Like I was, and I was like, same thing. Cried, totally cried. And I thought I had one thing. In comedy, I remember just losing competition after. I would get like second place and be like, we have to give him something because he's funny, but he's not. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Johnson, ready for TV. He goes some, but then I totally forgot. In 2014, I won 2 awards at the 2014 Fringe, Editor's Choice over here and Best Performer over there. So, yeah, but those are our memories, and nothing can ever take that away. Nothing could take. I mean, I suppose they could, send me a letter going, we saw your recent videos and we don't want to be associated with you. But these are real Blake people. This is absolutely amazing. Now we have to. Scott's going to film me performing the thing and this fucking letter. But it's funny, when I went there, he said we'd love to arrange a screening of your film. So we have responsibility now. Scott and I, we have to get that film out of there. What a lovely, lovely day. This was 100%. The only bet I have, but by fucking 2 in the afternoon today, it was 100% day hanging out with this old guy. It was 100% day. And then the evening was 100% in pie and mash. I didn't even know there was a pie and mash shop in the neighborhood around there. I was a fucking EastEnders pie and mash. There was even pie and mash. And then this happened. And the only bad thing was that at one point when I was talking to the Irish guy, I had my phone on vibrate, and I could hear my phone vibrating. See, these are little worry devices, right? All this reality is taking place, and all of a sudden you get oh yeah, check. It's that, right? And this starts vibrating. And then when I check the, who was it? When I finally, go outside for a cigarette, I check the phone, no caller ID. And those always, because I always assume it's bad news. If I see no caller ID, I answer right away. Yeah, what is it? No, I've not been in an accident. No, I don't need any insurance. It's like, just get it out of the way. Because I always assume it's something really fucking dreadful. But I wasn't able to answer it. So in my mind, I could feel it. It's like, worry about this. You're having this 100% day, but like stop. I had to resist. Like, stop. Don't. Why would you worry about this? So what? You can fuck your day up and color it negatively? And somehow I was able to resist it. And they even called back again. No, and I didn't get a chance to answer it that time either. And I go, God, they're really persistent, these no caller ID people. What do they want? I said, don't go there. Don't go there. Ride the true interconnectivity. Not that illusion of social media, but the true interconnectivity of, what was it? No man is a failure who has friends. Why do you cry during It's a Wonderful Life? Because that message always rings true. No man is a failure who has friends. And anybody who knows, anyway, you are God's gift yourself. Have an amazing day, everybody. Night.